Hi, Yumi. Great to see you.
Hi, Ben. Great to see you too. Thank you
How
for.
have you been? You been well?
Yeah, yeah. I have been well. Yeah, the weather's lovely, nice and sunny. So that certainly makes a difference. How's it
Yeah,
going?
same here. It really lifts the spirits, doesn't it? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
the light's
sure.
so important.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, this is the first one we're doing in our conversations, and I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah,
Would you like to go first, or I don't know?
sure, sure. So yeah, my name is Yumi Sykes. I'm originally from Japan. Well, born and raised in Japan. My surname Sykes is from my husband. He's British. Hence, I'm living in London. I'm a founder of Isho Coaching. So, Isho is in Japanese. It means two meanings in Japanese. One is together,
Yes. Yeah.
and the other is lifetime. So, my philosophy for my business is to work in partnership with my coachees or clients to create lifetime transformation. So that's why I decided on that business name.
Oh, that's lovely, beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm a leadership coach, but I started my career as a high school English teacher in Japan. So I was very good at shouting at, 15 to 18-year-old students. But then I moved into an international tech company as executive assistant, but then I was involved in global HR responsibilities, creating, consistent experience globally. And then I became eventually head of L&D, learning and development. And then as part of organizational strategic shift, I identified that the leadership development was one of the key priorities for the organization. And coaching as a leadership style is what I really worked hard to embed in that organization. So I went to get myself qualified as a coach. So I am now an ICF, coach acting on a freelance basis. But I'm also, I mean, that's how I think we got on, Ben. We have a passion for exercise or fitness. So I'm also
Yes.
I'm also competitive pole dancer. I used to be an instructor as well, and I basically marry both my passion for people development as well as, I guess, physical intelligence. And I try to marry both passions together in my practice.
It's amazing. No, and I sense the kind of life and joy that you have with talking about your all of your passions. But it's amazing how you bring those things together in a way that's unique to you.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Why don't you introduce yourself now?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name is Ben Slight. I'm a coach, consultant, and publisher. My background originally is in books and publishing. I ran a bookshop for 10 years after I left university, and then I got into publishing, and I kind of fell into working with all the kind of famous coaching books and like Coaching for Performance, Coactive Coaching, loads and loads of other great ones, plus some big business books like the 80/20 Principle and black box thinking. So I was kind of involved in getting all of those out there in the world. So I'd meet these amazing people and I fell in love with it. And so there was an opportunity to go and work for Sir John Whitmore's company, Performance Consultants. 6 years working for that company in the leadership team. We were rolling out big global programs of coaching for performance training and other kind of things around the world. My equivalent of your pole dancing experience is I'm a black belt in Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's martial art, and I'm a trainee instructor in that as well. Yeah, and then we found, of course, that we had all this mutual interest in Eastern philosophy and how it applies and its common roots of coaching. Yeah, so we've been chatting, haven't we, for a few months, and
Yeah.
we kind of thought we always go to quite interesting places. Okay, so that's how it came about. And then, as we just said a second ago, so we both had a look at the new Gallup report. So there's a state of the global workforce report that comes out every year from Gallup. It's the biggest survey of its kind, looking at the whole global workforce, and they're looking at all these measures, aren't they? It's over about 15 years plus now, I think, and what it's like for people in organizations. So I guess, what were the things that kind of struck us looking at that report this year?
And so I think, I mean, the biggest thing or the first thing that stood out to me was the engagement level. It's record low. I mean, I was looking at the report last year and it was record low. And it even went down this year, or I should say 2025, and it's the lowest. I mean, Europe scored the lowest. And
100%.
that is costing the economy, global economy, what was it, like 10 trillion?
10 trillion. I know. Incredible. Yeah. So this is not cheap. It's not a cheap indulgence to have low engagement.
It's really not cheap. Yeah, I mean, we can certainly feel it. We can certainly hear all sorts of stories around, all the redundancies, absentees, everything that's certainly in line with what's going on in the world. $10 trillion in lost productivity, and it's hitting the managers the hardest. The
Yeah.
disengagement level is prominent in managers. I mean, they are citing stress as as the biggest feeling or
It's a very big thing. And as you say, I mean, Europe in particular has a very low engagement rate, and I think there are some differences between, say, Europe and the US. Let's say, for example, which I think we can delve into the reasons for as we talk. As you say, stress is something that's very much there at the moment. Reasons for that, I think you saw in the report that stress tended to be particularly high in the US and the engagement particularly low in Europe, and it sort of speaks to some extent to the cultural differences
well,
in those two places. But it's pretty safe to say it's not a great time to be a manager or a leader or anything else. And as you say, there's a real cost to that. And I think we see it, don't we? When there's a kind of sense that you pick up more anecdotally, either from the clients we're dealing with or when you just speak to companies. It's a bit of a tricky time. There's so much change, a bit of uncertainty,
yeah,
and the managers often get caught in the middle. It feels like, well, they certainly feel like that's what's happening.
yeah,
So I guess there's a question of two aspects to this, but we can kind of dive a bit into sort of what really is sort of going on, what we feel maybe in particular. And then we do have a bit of an idea of what can be done, don't we, as well?
it's not just from this report, I guess, but it's a well-known fact that Gen Z and millennials, as soon as they find a misalignment with, for example, organizational mission and purpose, as soon as they see that it's not actually consistent, it's just a word and it's not practice in the organization, they leave. They're looking for something more meaningful. But if that is not the case, they will just leave. If it's just ticking the boxes exercise, then they're not interested. And
I
manage,
love what you said.
yeah,
I want to capture that word meaning that you mentioned there, because
yeah,
I think this is and it's a wonderful challenge. I feel blessed that we have this Gen Z challenge, people
yeah,
who won't perhaps kind of stand for it to some extent, and it can be annoying to manage, but often that's a good kind of annoyance because it forces you to address sometimes systemic things
yeah,
in a company.
yeah,
Yeah, in many
exactly.
respects. And
Yeah, because I've done market research last year, interviewing. I mean, I mainly work with leaders, organizations who are in sort of sustainability focused B Corp type of organizations. And obviously, they are very purpose driven. The driving the business consistently, according to their value is a challenge. And again, that's burnout in leaders are definitely, you know, is a huge issue. But there is no support for leaders. And I remember somewhere, I know it's not in this report, but over 70% maybe of the managers are accidental managers, including myself. I was one of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And so, I mean, in terms of leadership development, I mean, we need to provide enough support for the leaders and managers so that they don't need to feel so stressed. They don't need to feel the burnout. They are still, performing, delivering the results for the organization. That's their job. But also, they are uniting the teams and delivering the social values that Gen Z and millennials are interested in. So that systemic side is becoming more and more important. And then there is this AI that everyone's talking about. So if you look at just how much the managers are expected to do,
Yeah.
It's no wonder that they are feeling stress and burnout.
I really relate to that, and particularly on the AI front. And there was a very curious set of stats in the report. So individuals who used AI a lot felt they had become a lot more productive. But when they looked at their company, even if the company ostensibly used AI a great deal, they had almost no confidence that anyone else was, that the results were getting any better, you
Yeah.
know? And so it kind of made me wonder, well, sometimes, okay, the AI is helping me produce a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and I'm expected to produce a lot of stuff as part of my job.
Yeah.
But to what extent is the stuff that we're being asked to produce actually helping a company grow or
Yeah.
providing a kind of meaning,
Yeah.
and speaking to those values that people are so clearly looking for?
Yeah, I love what you said. It's that value, you know. Is this going to add value to what we are trying to achieve? I think it comes down to that. So it's not, I mean, in this age of AI and all the digitalization, and you can do so much. So we are focusing on human doings rather than human beings.
Yes.
As coaches say, you know, human doings are becoming seemingly becoming more important. But hang on a second, is it really the case? Because if that is the case, then why is the engagement level so low? You know, I mean, it's costing so much. If we are able to do so much, why the world is as is now? You know what I mean? Like we were talking last time. What has the world become?
Yeah. I think the world, I feel like the world's kind of adjusting to, a lot of challenges, isn't it? And I'm not sure anyone really knows where we're going to end up, and it's quite unsettling, let's be honest. I mean, there's AI, and and even the founders of some of the companies will sometimes kind of one moment suggest a kind of utopian future where,
Yeah.
a bit like Star Trek or something, where you just, we will need to provide it and you can go and pursue your rock climbing hobby or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then the next minute it sounds more dystopian, where
Mm,
you know, the only people with a job will be a plumber and an electrician,
yeah.
And so that's slightly unsettling. And you kind of wonder to some extent, well, am I making myself redundant by working with AI? So that's kind of in the air. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely going to be change, but there's a kind of choice, I think, to be made by countries as well as by companies about what kind of future we want to have. Is it one of abundance, where AI is a kind of partner with us in expressing more creativity, more abundance, solving problems that help everybody? Or is it just a cheap way of replacing humans, which seems a little bit low on the imagination front?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you talk about creativity. And I think you might touch upon this later on, but it's, because you talked about inner game in the beginning. And obviously, what we need in this current world is the kind of culture that encourages people to experiment and explore and make mistakes. And that kind of psychological safety as a leader, you need to cultivate that in your organization and, encourage people to, like I said, try things out and really
Yeah.
innovate because that's what we need, everything is changing.
It's interesting you say that we want a culture of being able to make mistakes, and there's lots of indicators that I feel like many people agree with that,
Yeah.
and Amy Edmondson, I think, gets
Oh,
consistently
yeah.
voted the number one thinker in the world, and
Mm,
she's the champion for psychological safety, which is
eh,
ultimately about being able to
yeah.
speak truth to power in a positive, in a constructive way, and to make mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
feel like people want that, don't they? And
Yeah.
accept it. It's just sometimes companies don't always embody that when they're
Yeah.
under pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's where I'm trying to come at is that because, the research I was talking about, market research I did, and that is the biggest sort of challenge I heard from the people I interviewed. It's that alignment between the values and actual practice or application of the values.
Yeah.
And that is consistently, achieving that is a huge challenge. And obviously, leaders are the key to driving that. in the organization. And again, again, it's we need to provide support for leaders. They're
Yes.
so stretched out. What I also took from the Gallup's report, I don't know if it's directly related, which I think it is the feeling of loneliness as well. I honestly feel that now that we are connected, we are hyper connected, but they're also still feeling loneliness. And I do believe that the community, maybe the leadership development cannot be done individually anymore. I think it's got to be community-led or experiential, interactive, relationship-based
Mm.
sort of development. That's also something that they need. That in this age of hyper-connected AI world, I think it's about being human beings. The focus should be on that rather than human doings and all about on our cognition. I think we need to detach ourselves from that to be able to fully
I love that. And from human doings to human beings. And I think that's kind of what kind of gets us out of bed in the morning, isn't it? Sort of playing in that sort of space.
Yeah.
And as we were talking as we looked through the report together earlier, so there are companies who really get this right, aren't there? So
Yeah.
it's not just that everyone's sitting there in this low level of engagement, high level of stress. I think you had a stat on, I'm trying to remember what it was, but I think it was in the 70%, wasn't it?
79% of the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah. So there are companies where they're following best practice, and we'll talk a bit about what that kind of perhaps might look like. But where that's the case, the engagement level is completely different.
Yeah.
And as has been demonstrated, profit and reputation follows
Yeah.
engagement.
Yeah.
I think it's good in its own right, but there's a payoff as a leader of a company who's reporting to shareholders and so on as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, so what can be done? And you mentioned the inner game earlier, and I guess there was a model that I was looking at, because one of the thing that Tim Galway and his team mentioned to me, and I think appears in the book, a book called The Inner Game of Work, which I really enjoyed reading.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called the performance, learning, and enjoyment triangle. It's a model, and it's quite an interesting idea because I mean, if you imagine you have performance at the top, and it's almost kind of supported by learning and enjoyment. The suggestion is that if you concentrate only on performance, the enjoyment and the learning sort of shrink, and in fact, performance will go down because you need to have high levels of learning, high levels of enjoyment, and enjoyment is not just kind of like going to the pub with people or kind of company perks. It's about doing work that you experience positively and that that you're enjoying for its own sake.
Mm, definitely. And to add on to what you said in terms of enjoyment, I think people need more personalized sort of developmental support. I know I
Yes,
said we need to be, more systemic. That's collectively leaders need to be thinking about more collective impact, but as in like leaders or even not just leaders, but I think people need more personalized support because individuals have different strengths, different, qualities, and people find enjoyment in different ways and different, um, so I guess we will need to be able to provide that kind of personalized support, developmental support, and then the ongoing continuous learning, then that requires sort of a mindset shift. That I mean, this might be quite obsolete, but trainings, you go through a training, you don't apply the training, and just not just once, just consistently, you will forget,
yes,
you know,
absolutely.
easily.
We know from our hobbies, right? If you don't do it for ages, you've got to kind of get back there.
I don't know how many languages I try to learn and then I don't remember a word of them anymore. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, that kind of combination of the mindset shift into, what everyone says, growth mindset, learning mindset,
Yes,
continuous learning, applying the curiosity lens, and then carry that with you and then understanding what are your unique qualities, strengths, and how can I actually really build on these strengths so that I can really enjoy, what I do. I can build my career, I can contribute to that, systemic social impact by leveraging what I have.
Just to capture what you said there, because it feels like a message.
Mm.
And as you said, so many people are accidental managers. And when you step into that role, sometimes you arrive with certain ideas about it, like you're supposed to know everything already and a manager's
Yeah.
supposed to do this, and it's difficult. And while it's absolutely true that we want that there's a message that we have for L&D, HR, and so
Yeah.
forth about the kind of things they can put in place. It's also a message for the individual. There's a lot that you can do yourself with having that growth mindset, and
Mm.
accepting that you know you don't know. Nobody knows everything, and the manager's role is not to know everything.
Yeah, yeah. But then that takes courage, right? To say, I
Yeah.
don't know, but we'll figure out together. I didn't know to say that when I became an accidental manager. I felt like I needed to know everything, and I feel like I needed to give instructions or advice to people, but that we moved far from that kind of style, leadership style. But yeah, it takes courage. It takes changing your approach, style, so that we can evolve ourselves together with the pace of the world. But that's again, that's difficult. And yeah, we can't expect managers to do it all by themselves.
It's an effort from both sides, isn't it? Because I think that at the senior level in a company, I don't think it starts right at the top because it's what you
Ah,
model as a senior leader, and through the departments is the language in a company, the way people talk about how you should how you can be needs to model a certain vulnerability around those topics, and it needs to be okay to say that I don't know the answer,
yeah,
but I'm going to help us, get there, um, create the best possible conditions.
yeah,
Once there's that acceptance,
yeah.
um, then you don't spend a load of time pretending to be something you're not.
That's yeah, I love that. Yeah, that feeling like I need to pretend. That the vulnerability. It's I mean, us coaches, we create agreement with our clients in the beginning, and I'm sure you do the same. But vulnerability is definitely something I ask, and I try to demonstrate it myself so that my coachees can also be vulnerable. But that's definitely one of the key qualities, isn't it?
And it's authenticity, isn't it? And I think in
Yeah.
your, which is one of the things I think certainly the new generation coming to the workforce, but anyone really appreciates. It's just being real and not
Mm,
putting on an act. So I suppose the question then is, so what is the answer for managers? How can they help themselves, and what can they ask for?
I guess I just want to say that, maybe just take a step back. And it might be worth mentioning that I am learning Zen as a philosophy. I think that's actually, I just want to say thank you, Ben, to, help me identify or reconnect with what's important to me, which is Zen as a philosophy. And I've been learning a lot about it. We've been reading about the philosophy, and yeah, it tells you to, for example, stop multitasking.
Yes.
We're not good at multitasking.
No, I'm dreadful. If I'm frying an egg, I can't talk to anybody in the family.
I mean, what I mean is, mm, managers are not given enough space to reflect and think about what is it that they really need to achieve, or maybe achieve is a strong word. What is it that they need? They're doing well, and they can let go of.
I have a thought on it because as we've been discussing it, there's another model that I've
Mm,
found. I say I found it. It's been sitting there in plain sight the whole time, but I didn't quite come to it properly until
no,
quite recently, which was, and I'm sure everyone's seen it in the bookshop, and not many people have picked it up. I guess
mm,
I didn't, despite being in publishing. Last year, I read a lot of books, and that absolutely jumped out at me as a possible answer here. And it'll be interesting. So the flow is this kind of state that you can get into where you're at your best, where you're doing something for its own sake and you're performing well. So, typically people will say they go skiing. Oh yeah, I was totally in flow there. And they've got a kind of look in their eye, like it was the best moment they've had in years.
Mm,
Sometimes we completely get absorbed in all kinds of things. It could be playing a board game. It could even be work, And so,
yeah.
but there are loads of study to suggest that when people are in that condition, which is being absorbed in work and enjoying it for its own state, it's
Mm,
by far the most productive
yeah.
zone you can be in. And for me, I think it's a way of almost defining kind of high engagement. You
Yeah,
know,
definitely.
and this therefore means there is a kind of clue in the flow model as to what a manager can potentially do to not just improve their working life, but the lives of those around them. So with flow, in order to get into flow, you need to have a clear goal, non-ambiguous goal. Just that on its own, I think, is sometimes hard to find in a
Mm,
company.
yeah.
And I've had it too. I've had leaders where, okay, yeah, I think I sort of know what you mean, and I'll just kind of go and do some stuff that seems roughly aligned with that. The invitation or the courage can come in saying, well, no, I'd love to know exactly what the goal is. I'm not asking you to know what's going to happen in geopolitics over the next 6 months. So there's certainly some ambiguity in the world, but where do we want to get to? What does success look like?
Mm,
I think you need to have that at any level of a business, and especially if you're a manager and your people are looking to you to explain the goal, but you
yeah.
need to be able to articulate it. So, but sometimes we don't always get there, I think, in practice. So that's a real thing. There are two other conditions of flow. The other one's feedback. So being able to get immediate feedback, but you just need to know how you're doing. You
Yeah.
need to have quick information on how you're doing. Good feedback is not judgmental. It's information that you can adapt to. And I think if we can get to a place of feedback, which is non-judgmental, but informative and helps you guide yourself, then that's really great.
Yeah.
That's another condition. And a third one is around the balance of skill and challenge. So if the challenge is too great for your skill level, then you can get anxious and stressed.
Mm,
That's a thing that you see in some companies more than others as a prevailing culture. At the same time, if the challenge is never high enough, or it's kind of not what you might call a worthy challenge, or it's a meaningless challenge, then you can go into a place of apathy or boredom.
mm, yeah.
And that's where I feel that the engagement gets really low.
Yeah.
Both of these things can be going on in the same place.
Mhm.
So Csikszentmihalyi, his point really was you need a balance of these two things and they should both be high, So it's not just about having both low because you might as well fall asleep. You want high challenge and high skill.
Yeah.
And I think that gives something to focus on
Yeah.
for companies who are thinking, well, how do we support managers
Mm,
and how do they support their people?
yeah.
Helping you have the skills to meet a meaningful challenge.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that.
I think there's a model of a manager, which
Mm,
is that you can create the conditions or you can facilitate the conditions in which people could get into that state.
yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. It's reminding me of when I was in my previous employment and I was running leadership development workshops globally. And one of the first module was what is the role of the leader? And the word golden thread is when organizational goal and departmental team goal into individual goals, they're all beautifully aligned. That's ultimately what we want to all achieve. Now, the question is how many organizations have a clear goal and departmental goals outlined and people understand and it's all, cascading down into individual goals? That's often not the case. So that's first and foremost is very important. But again, leaders slash managers, they need to be involved. They need to be involved in developing these goals because they are the one implementing them. So they do need to be involved. They do need help to develop and translate that into their respective departmental or team goals. And then I guess what you said I really liked about, the challenge, maybe stretch goals or rooms to develop. Everyone needs that.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to feel that they are growing in their career. And
Yes.
also, to some extent, or I would like to say to full extent, people need to feel in control of their career.
I think you need to feel control in general, don't you? I think it, and in fact, that's another characteristic of flow as well, that you are in control of what you're doing. And I
Yeah,
think that's another thing that can build that anxiety if you feel you're losing that control. And
yeah,
I sometimes hear people feeling, well, that can be one of the things that comes up with AI. They're sort of worried they're going to be at the mercy of something they don't really understand and so on,
yeah,
but there's an opportunity or an invitation to have the control and use it as a tool if
yeah,
it's set up in that way and with a clear purpose.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that autonomy.
Yes.
Autonomy is important. Yeah, the room for progression, room for development. But also, again, I'm going to come back to this personalized because
Yes.
everyone needs different things. When everyone feels that they're leveraging, their superpowers, they will stay. They will, if they feel that the company values their superpowers and they're invested in their success, they will stay. The loyalty will grow. If they are not bothered about that. They just want people to deliver results. That's not going to happen because it's always people first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's the invitation, I guess, for Europe to kind of, I mean, certain kinds of compliance, as we go back to that again, are really important. I mean, safety especially, and
Yeah.
it's about saving lives. That is highly meaningful. There are other areas though where you could say that as a mindset of experimentation, being able to make mistakes and so forth, where it would be much more beneficial to be able to go into that place,
Yeah.
have autonomy.
Yeah.
I think as long as people understand the goals and are aligned with the goals, and there's some values work done,
Mm.
that's when autonomy flourishes. And it's quite a well-established thing in high stakes. I don't know, sorry to use the military analogy, but there are all these kind of military theory things where, what you need is high autonomy and high alignment. Because, in a kind of a battle, as long as you know the objective is to take this piece of land, then you can make the decision as to what to do about a bridge that's in front of you without
Yeah.
having orders and so forth. So, but in any kind of human endeavor, there's much better results if people have both of those things.
Absolutely. And once that foundation is laid, then there will be the results any organization is looking for. The high performance, the revenue, the high engagement, obviously that brings, the excellent customer service, revenue, profits, all of those things, retention, all of those things will happen.
And so that whole kind of profit, people,
Yeah,
and to some extent planet, all of those things
yeah,
which speak to the values,
yeah, yeah.
that's how you get them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I hope we've given some people something to think about. As I've really enjoyed our chat today. I'm just thinking about signing off. Maybe people would love to know that they can reach out to either of us to talk
Yeah,
about coaching or
yeah,
leadership. What's the best way to reach you, Yumi, if people would like to?
yeah. People can find me on LinkedIn, Yumi Sykes, or if they go to my website, ishacoaching.com, then people can send a message or book a time with me. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
And likewise for me, it's Ben Slight. I'm on LinkedIn. My company's Slight Advantage and website is slightadvantage.co.uk. Lovely. Thank you very much, Yumi.
So
Great to
much
speak to you today.
fun. As
Have a great day.
always, thank you so much. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
You too.